Why is it broken, Mommy? Why is my present already broken? My 8-year-old son stood in front of the Christmas tree, holding the shattered remains of what was supposed to be the best gift of his young life. The box had been torn open, the packaging ripped apart, and the toy inside, the one he had been dreaming about for months, was in pieces in his small hands. It was Christmas morning. The living room was filled with wrapping paper and ribbon. The smell of cinnamon rolls baking in the kitchen mixed with the pine scent of the tree. This was supposed to be a perfect moment, the moment when my son finally got the toy he had been begging for since September. Instead, he was staring at broken plastic and trying not to cry. "Oh, that," my mother-in-law said from her spot on the couch, her tone casual, dismissive. "Tyler wanted to test it for you. He was just making sure it worked." Tyler. My nephew. My sister-in-law's 9-year-old son. The golden child who could do no wrong in his grandmother's eyes. "What do you mean, he tested it?" I asked, my voice tight with controlled fury. "He saw the box last night and wanted to see what it was. You know how curious children are. I let him open it and play with it for a bit. I thought it would be fine. It is broken." Well, yes, that was an accident. These toys are not made like they used to be. Tyler barely touched it and the arm came right off. I looked at the toy in my son's hands. It was not just the arm. The whole thing was destroyed. One arm completely detached. The other hanging by a wire. The chest plate cracked down the middle. The head loose on its socket. This was not damage from barely touching something. This was damage from aggressive, careless play. Why would you let him open someone else's present? I demanded. "It is just a toy, Sarah. Do not make this into a bigger deal than it needs to be. Just a toy." To her, it was just a toy. To my son, it was so much more. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Rachel Cooper. I am 32 years old, and I have been married to my husband Daniel for 9 years. We have one child, a wonderful boy named Ethan who is 8 years old. He has sandy brown hair and the brightest blue eyes you have ever seen, and he is the kind of kid who gets attached to things with his whole heart. When Ethan loves something, he loves it completely. Whether it is a book series or a video game or a movie, he dives in deep, learning everything there is to know, talking about it constantly, making it part of his identity. It is one of the things I love most about him, this capacity for passionate enthusiasm. In September of that year, Ethan discovered the Titan Force action figures. They were the hot toy of the season, large posable robots with interchangeable parts and lights and sounds. Every kid at school wanted them. Every commercial during his cartoon shows featured them. They were expensive, $60 each, which meant we could not just buy one on a whim. "I will put it on my Christmas list," Ethan said. "Maybe Santa will bring it." He did not just put it on his list. He circled it in red marker in the toy catalog, drew stars around it, wrote, "Please," in capital letters. He talked about the Titan Force Commander, the largest and most elaborate figure in the series, every single day. He watched YouTube videos of other kids opening them. He memorized all the features and accessories. "The commander has 12 points of articulation and real laser sounds," he told me at least once a week. "His chest plate opens up and there is a little pilot inside. He can connect to the other Titan Force figures to make a super robot. He is the best one." He drew pictures of the Titan Force Commander in his school notebook. His teacher sent home a note saying Ethan was very focused on a particular toy and asking if everything was okay at home. I had to explain that my son was just passionate and that his obsession was harmless. He made a countdown calendar. Starting December 1st, he crossed off each day with increasing excitement, annotating some days with notes like, "Only 18 more days until maybe Commander," and "Getting closer." His handwriting got bigger and more enthusiastic as Christmas approached. For 3 months, the Titan Force Commander was all Ethan could think about. I found drawings of it in his school folder. He talked about it so much that his teacher mentioned it at parent-teacher conferences. It was the first thing he asked about when he woke up and the last thing he mentioned before bed. He would pause in front of the toy store windows whenever we went to the mall, pressing his face against the glass to stare at the display model. He could describe every detail without looking: the blue and silver color scheme, the articulated fingers, the way the eyes lit up when you pressed the button on the back. His best friend Marcus had gotten one for his birthday in November. Ethan came home from Marcus's birthday party practically glowing. "Mommy, I got to play with it. The real one. It is even better than it looks in the videos. The laser sounds are so loud and the arms can move in every direction and the chest plate opens so smoothly. Marcus let me hold it for 5 whole minutes. That was nice of Marcus. He said I could come over and play with it any time I want. But I told him that maybe I would have my own soon. For Christmas." "Maybe," I said, trying not to give anything away. "Do you think Santa will bring it?" "I have been really good. I cleaned my room every week and I did all my homework and I only argued with you about vegetables like 3 times. You have been very good, sweetheart. I think Santa knows how much you want it." What Ethan did not know was that I had already bought it. I had stood in line at the toy store at 6 in the morning on Black Friday, one of dozens of parents desperate to get their hands on the season's most coveted toy. The line had wrapped around the building. I had brought a thermos of coffee and a folding chair, prepared to wait as long as it took. When the doors opened, it was chaos. Parents rushing toward the toy aisle, grabbing whatever they could reach. I had studied the store layout beforehand. I knew exactly where the Titan Force displays would be. I made it there in under a minute and grabbed one of the last Commander figures on the shelf. I had paid full price, $64.99 plus tax, and I had hidden it in the back of my closet where Ethan would never find it. I had wrapped it in a blanket so even the shape would not give it away. The plan was simple. Santa would bring the Titan Force Commander, and Ethan would have the best Christmas of his life. His face when he opened that box would make every minute of standing in that cold line worth it. Every time he mentioned the toy, which was multiple times a day, I had to suppress a smile. Every time he asked if I thought Santa would bring it, I had to pretend I did not know. The anticipation was almost as exciting as the gift itself. But my mother-in-law had other plans. My mother-in-law, Denise Harrison, is a woman who plays favorites. She has 3 grandchildren: Ethan, my son; Tyler, my sister-in-law Michelle's son; and Sophie, Michelle's daughter who is 6. In Denise's hierarchy, Tyler comes first. Always. Tyler is the oldest grandchild, the first boy, the one who lives nearby and visits every week. He can do no wrong. Sophie comes second. She is the baby, the only girl, and she gets spoiled in a different way, with princess dresses and tea parties and special grandmother-granddaughter outings. Ethan comes last. We live 2 hours away, which means we only see Denise 4 or 5 times a year. Ethan is not constantly in her presence, constantly reminding her of his existence. And so, when Denise thinks about her grandchildren, Ethan is often an afterthought. I had noticed this pattern over the years. Birthday gifts that were generic while Tyler and Sophie got personalized presents. Christmas stockings where Tyler and Sophie's were overflowing while Ethan's contained the bare minimum. Family photo albums where Ethan appeared in half as many pictures as his cousins. Daniel saw it too, though he was reluctant to admit it. "My mom loves all the grandchildren equally," he would say. "She just sees Tyler and Sophie more often. It is harder to show love from a distance." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that Denise's favoritism was unintentional, a side effect of geography rather than a deliberate choice. But over time, the evidence became harder to ignore. And then came Christmas. We arrived at Denise's house on Christmas Eve, as we did every year. The plan was to spend Christmas Eve and Christmas Day with Daniel's family, then drive to my parents' house for the day after Christmas. The drive had been filled with Ethan's excited chatter. He told us about what he hoped to find under the tree, about the cookies he planned to leave for Santa, about how he was definitely going to try to stay awake and catch a glimpse of the reindeer. He was vibrating with the kind of pure, uncontainable joy that only children can feel. "I have a good feeling about this year," he announced from the back seat. "I think this is going to be the best Christmas ever." Daniel caught my eye in the rearview mirror, and we shared a knowing smile. If only Ethan knew. Ethan was vibrating with excitement. He had been counting down the days since Thanksgiving, crossing each one off on the calendar in his room. Christmas at Grandma's house meant presents and cookies and staying up late and all the magic of the holiday season. "Do you think my presents are under the tree already?" he asked as we pulled into the driveway. "Some of them might be," I said. "We will have to wait until tomorrow morning to see." What I did not tell him was that the Titan Force Commander was safely packed in my suitcase, ready to be placed under the tree once he was asleep. I had wrapped it in plain brown paper so no one would know what it was. I wanted it to be a surprise. I wanted to see his face when he realized that Santa had brought him exactly what he wanted. We unloaded the car and went inside. Tyler and Sophie were already there, of course, since Michelle lived only 15 minutes away. The living room was decorated beautifully, a large tree covered in ornaments, garlands draped over the fireplace, stockings hung in a row. I counted the stockings automatically, a habit I had developed over years of being vigilant about Ethan's treatment. 1, 2, 3. There were 3 stockings. One for Tyler, embroidered with his name in red thread. One for Sophie, pink and sparkly with her name in glitter. And one plain red stocking with no name at all. "Where is Ethan's stocking?" I asked Denise quietly, while Daniel was busy carrying luggage upstairs. "Oh, I only had 3 hooks on the mantel," she said, not even looking up from the appetizers she was arranging. "I thought he could share with Tyler." Share with Tyler. My son was supposed to share a stocking with his cousin because his grandmother had not bothered to put up an extra hook. Because in 3 years of hosting Christmas, she had never thought to buy a 4th hook or find some other solution. "That plain one is for both of them," she added, gesturing vaguely at the nameless stocking. "I figured they could share." "Tyler has his own stocking with his name on it." "Well, yes, I made that years ago. Ethan was not born yet. He is 8 now. In 8 years, you have not made him a stocking." Denise finally looked at me, her expression annoyed. "I have been meaning to. I just have not gotten around to it. It is not a big deal, Rachel. They are just stockings." They were not just stockings. They were symbols. Tyler had a personalized stocking because he mattered. Sophie had a personalized stocking because she mattered. Ethan had nothing because, to Denise, he was an afterthought. "I will find another solution," I said through gritted teeth. I went out to my car and dug through the trunk until I found a decorative clip. I used it to hang Ethan's stocking from the garland next to the fireplace. It was not as nice as having a proper hook, but at least my son would not have to share. Then I drove to the nearest drugstore and bought a fabric marker. I wrote Ethan on the plain stocking myself, in careful capital letters. It was not embroidered or sparkly, but at least his name was there. That should have been my warning. That should have told me that this Christmas was not going to go the way I hoped. But I pushed the incident aside, chalking it up to thoughtlessness rather than malice. I did not want to ruin the holiday with conflict. I did not want to be the difficult daughter-in-law who made everything about her son. I should have listened to my instincts. I should have paid more attention to the patterns. Christmas Eve passed pleasantly enough. We ate dinner together, the adults talking while the children played. Ethan and Tyler got along well enough, though Tyler had a tendency to boss his younger cousin around. We watched a Christmas movie, put out cookies for Santa, and sent the children to bed with promises of an exciting morning to come. The dinner was Denise's usual elaborate affair. Ham and mashed potatoes and green beans and rolls, all served on her good china. Ethan ate politely, complimenting the food, using his best manners. I had coached him on being a good guest, and he was doing his best. Tyler, meanwhile, complained about everything. The ham was too salty. The potatoes were too lumpy. He wanted pizza, not this fancy stuff. Denise responded to each complaint with patience and offers to make him something different. "Would you like me to heat up some chicken nuggets instead?" she asked him. "Yes, please, Grandma." Ethan looked at me with confusion. He would never have been allowed to reject a home-cooked meal and demand something different. But I kept my expression neutral. Different rules for different grandchildren was nothing new. After dinner, we gathered in the living room to watch A Christmas Story, the same movie we watched every year. Ethan curled up on the couch between Daniel and me, his eyes growing heavy as the evening wore on. Tyler and Sophie sprawled on the floor with blankets and pillows, already making plans for tomorrow. "I am going to open all my presents first," Tyler announced. "I am the oldest, so I get to go first." "We will take turns," Michelle said. "One present at a time, so everyone can see." "That takes too long. I want to open mine fast." "Tyler, do not be selfish." "I am not selfish. I just want to open my presents." I watched this exchange and wondered, not for the first time, what Tyler would grow up to be. He was 9 years old, and already he expected the world to revolve around him. He expected his wants to come first, always, and he could not understand why anyone would suggest otherwise. We put out cookies for Santa at 9 o'clock. Ethan arranged them carefully on a special plate, 3 cookies in a row with a glass of milk beside them. He had written a note that said, "Thank you, Santa. I have been good this year. Love, Ethan." "Do you think he will like the cookies?" he asked me. "I think he will love them. You picked out his favorite kind. Chocolate chip. Everyone's favorite." After the cookies were arranged, we sent the children to bed. Ethan was sharing a room with Tyler, which I was not thrilled about, but there was limited space. I tucked him in and kissed his forehead. "Try to get some sleep, sweetheart. The sooner you fall asleep, the sooner it will be morning." "I am too excited to sleep." "I know. But try anyway." "Mom, I have a good feeling about tomorrow. I think Santa is going to bring me something really special." "I think you might be right." He grinned, his excitement temporarily overcoming his attempts to act mature. "This is going to be the best Christmas ever." I left him trying to settle down, his eyes still bright with anticipation. On my way out, I passed Tyler, who was playing a handheld video game under his covers. "You should try to sleep too, Tyler." "I will. I just want to finish this level." I did not argue. Tyler was not my child, and his bedtime was not my responsibility. After they were asleep, the adults gathered in the living room to arrange the presents under the tree. I pulled the Titan Force Commander out of my suitcase and placed it in a prominent spot, right where Ethan would see it when he came downstairs. The brown paper wrapping I had used was boring but neutral, giving nothing away about what was inside. "Oh, you got him the Titan Force Commander?" Denise said, eyeing the box. She had noticed the distinctive shape even through the wrapping. "Tyler wanted that one too. I got him the smaller figures. Ethan has been talking about it for months. It was the only thing on his list." "Interesting that you could afford it. Those things are so expensive." I bit back a sharp response. "We saved up." "Well, I hope he appreciates it. Children these days do not understand the value of money." I was not going to let Denise ruin this. Tomorrow morning, Ethan would open his present and none of her passive-aggressive comments would matter. I arranged the box carefully, making sure it was visible, making sure it would be the first thing he saw when he came downstairs. But I should have paid more attention to the look on her face. It was calculating, envious, as if she was already thinking about how to diminish my son's happiness. She stared at that box for a long moment, and then she looked away, and I thought nothing of it. That was my mistake. Christmas morning arrived bright and early. The children woke at 6, too excited to sleep, and the adults stumbled downstairs to watch them open presents. The living room was chaos. Wrapping paper flying everywhere, children shrieking with delight, cameras flashing. Tyler opened present after present, his pile significantly larger than the others. Sophie squealed over a princess castle that was almost as big as she was. Even Ethan seemed happy with the smaller gifts he was opening, even though they were clearly less thought out than his cousin's presents. Then it was time for the big reveal. The present from Santa. The Titan Force Commander. I watched Ethan's face as he spotted the large box with his name on it. His eyes went wide. His hands started shaking. He could barely contain his excitement as he pulled the box toward him. Is this what I think it is?" he whispered. "Open it and find out," I said, my phone ready to capture the moment. He tore into the wrapping paper. He pulled off the bow. And then he stopped. His face changed from excitement to confusion to devastation in the space of a heartbeat. The box was already open. Not just a little open. Torn open. The packaging inside was ripped apart, the plastic shell that held the figure cracked and discarded. Ethan pulled out the toy. It was not the pristine, perfect action figure from the commercials. It was a broken mess. The arm was completely off. The joint that connected it to the body snapped in two. The other arm was hanging by a single wire. The chest plate was cracked down the middle, the little pilot compartment exposed and empty. The head wobbled on its neck, barely attached. "Why is it broken, Mommy? Why is my present already broken?" I looked at Denise. She was watching with an expression I could not quite read. Was it guilt? Satisfaction? Indifference? "Oh, that," she said, as if it was nothing. "Tyler wanted to test it for you. He was just making sure it worked." Tyler. Of course. Tyler, who had gotten his own Titan Force figures the night before. Tyler, who had everything he wanted and still could not let his cousin have something special. "You let Tyler open Ethan's present?" I asked. He saw the box and wanted to see what was inside. "You know how children are. I thought it would be fine." "When did this happen?" "Last night, after you went to bed." Tyler was having trouble sleeping, so I let him play with some of the toys under the tree. "And you let him play with a present that was not his? A present that was specifically for Ethan?" I did not think it would be a big deal. They are cousins. They share. "It is broken. The toy is destroyed." Denise shrugged. "These toys are not made like they used to be." Tyler barely touched it and pieces started falling off. I looked at Tyler, who was watching the exchange with a smirk on his face. He did not look remorseful. He did not look like a child who had accidentally broken something. He looked pleased with himself, like he had won some kind of competition. "Tyler," I said, keeping my voice calm, "did you break Ethan's toy on purpose?" "No," he said, but the smirk did not leave his face. "It just fell apart. I was just playing with it." "Why were you playing with something that was not yours?" "Grandma said I could." I turned back to Denise. "You told him he could open and play with Ethan's Christmas present?" "I said he could test it. Make sure it worked. I was doing Ethan a favor." "A favor? The toy is destroyed. How is that a favor? How was I supposed to know it would break?" "Blame the manufacturer, not me." I was shaking with anger. I looked at Daniel, hoping for support, but he was frozen, his face a mask of conflict. He knew his mother was wrong, but he did not want to confront her on Christmas morning. He did not want to cause a scene. I looked at Ethan. He was sitting amid the wrapping paper, the broken toy in his lap, tears streaming silently down his face. He was not making a sound, not complaining, not throwing a tantrum. He was just sitting there, heartbroken, trying to process the destruction of the thing he had wanted more than anything in the world. He was still holding the broken pieces, turning them over in his hands as if he could somehow put them back together. As if he could fix what his cousin and grandmother had destroyed. "Ethan," I said softly, kneeling beside him. "I am so sorry, sweetheart." "It is okay, Mommy," he whispered, but it was not okay. I could see how not okay it was in every line of his small body. "Can I fix it?" he asked. "Do you think Daddy can fix it?" I looked at the damage. The joints were snapped, not loosened. The plastic was cracked, not scuffed. This was not something that could be repaired with glue and patience. This was permanent destruction. "I do not think so, baby. I am so sorry." Ethan nodded, accepting this with a maturity that broke my heart. He set the broken toy aside and tried to show enthusiasm for his other presents, but the light had gone out of his eyes. The magic of Christmas morning had been stolen from him. Tyler, meanwhile, was happily playing with his own Titan Force figures, completely unaffected by the misery he had caused. Denise was fussing over Sophie's princess castle, acting as if nothing had happened. Michelle was taking photos of her children with their presents, making sure to capture every perfect moment. Only Daniel seemed to understand the weight of what had happened. He came to sit beside me, his face troubled. "I am so sorry," he said quietly. "I had no idea she would do something like this." "I did not either. But I should have. The signs were all there." "What do you want to do?" "Right now. Get through today. But there will be consequences. I am not letting this go." We finished opening presents. We ate Christmas breakfast. We went through the motions of a normal holiday while my son nursed his broken heart and his broken toy. At one point, Tyler came over to where Ethan was sitting. "Sorry your toy broke," he said, but his voice held no sincerity. "Maybe you can play with mine sometime. If you are careful." Ethan just looked at him, those blue eyes filled with hurt and confusion. "Why did you open it?" "It was mine." Tyler shrugged. "Grandma said I could. Anyway, you should not be so attached to stuff. It is just a toy." Just a toy. The same thing Denise had said. They had the same dismissive attitude toward Ethan's feelings, the same inability to understand why any of this mattered. "It was the only thing I wanted for Christmas," Ethan said quietly. "The only thing." "Well, maybe Santa should have brought you a better one." I intervened before Ethan could respond. "Tyler, please go play with your own toys." Tyler shrugged and walked away, completely unbothered. I watched him go, marveling at how a child could be so callous. But then again, he had learned it from somewhere. After breakfast, I found a quiet moment to confront Denise more directly. The children were in the playroom, and Daniel was helping Michelle clean up the kitchen. "We need to talk about what happened," I said. Denise sighed, as if I was being tiresome. "Are you still upset about the toy?" "Rachel, it was an accident. These things happen with children." "It was not an accident. You deliberately let Tyler open Ethan's present. You knew he would play with it roughly. You knew there was a chance it would be damaged." "I knew no such thing. I was trying to be helpful." "How was that helpful? In what world is letting one child destroy another child's gift helpful?" Tyler was just excited. He saw the box and wanted to see what was inside. I could not say no to him on Christmas Eve. You could have. You could have told him that the present was not his and he needed to wait until morning like everyone else. He would have thrown a fit. So you sacrificed Ethan's happiness to avoid Tyler having a tantrum? Denise's expression hardened. I do not appreciate being accused of favoritism. I love all my grandchildren equally. Then why is Ethan always the one who gets the short end of the stick? Why was there no stocking hook for him? Why are his presents always less thoughtful than Tyler and Sophie's? Why did you let his Christmas present be destroyed? You are being paranoid. You are seeing patterns that are not there. I am seeing what is right in front of my face. And so is Ethan. He knows you treat Tyler differently. He knows he is not your favorite. And every time you do something like this, it confirms what he already suspects. Denise's face flushed. That is not fair. I cannot help it that you live 2 hours away. I see Tyler and Sophie every week. Of course, I am closer to them. Being closer does not mean you have to let Tyler destroy Ethan's things. Being closer does not mean you have to treat Ethan like an afterthought. I do not treat him like an afterthought. You let his Christmas present be broken and you think it is no big deal. How is that not treating him like an afterthought? We stared at each other, both of us angry, neither of us willing to back down. I knew this conversation was not going to resolve anything. Denise did not see herself as the villain. She genuinely believed she had done nothing wrong. I want you to apologize to Ethan, I finally said. Not a fake apology. A real one. Acknowledge that what happened was wrong and that you are sorry for your part in it. I did not break the toy. Tyler did. You enabled it. You allowed it to happen. That makes you responsible. Denise pressed her lips together. Fine. If it will make you feel better, I will apologize. But I think you are overreacting. She did apologize, later that afternoon. It was a perfunctory apology, the kind where you can tell the person does not really mean it. I am sorry your toy got broken, Ethan. These things happen sometimes. Ethan accepted the apology politely, because he was a good kid who had been taught to be gracious. But I could see that he did not believe it any more than I did. He knew his grandmother was not really sorry. He knew she was just saying the words to get me off her back. We left Denise's house the next morning, earlier than planned. I told her we wanted to beat traffic, but the truth was I could not stand to be in her presence any longer. Every time I looked at her, I saw my son's face when he realized his present was broken. I saw the tears he had tried to hide. I saw the way he had held those broken pieces like he was grieving. On the drive to my parents' house, Ethan was quiet. He stared out the window, lost in thought, his small hands fidgeting in his lap. Are you okay, sweetheart? I asked. I guess so. Do you want to talk about what happened? He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Mommy, why did Grandma let Tyler open my present? I had been dreading this question. I did not have a good answer. I did not have any answer that would make sense to an 8-year-old. I think Grandma made a mistake, I said carefully. Sometimes grown-ups make bad decisions, and this was one of those times. But Tyler said she told him he could. So she knew what she was doing. You are right. She knew what she was doing. And it was wrong. Then why did she do it? I do not know, sweetheart. Sometimes people do things that hurt others without really thinking about how it will feel. Sometimes people put some children's feelings before other children's feelings. It is not fair, but it happens. Does Grandma like Tyler better than me? The question hung in the air, heavy with hurt. I wanted to lie, to tell him that his grandmother loved all her grandchildren the same. But I had never lied to Ethan about important things, and I was not going to start now. I think Grandma sees Tyler more often, and that makes her closer to him. But that does not mean you are less lovable. That just means Grandma has not made the effort to be close to you the way she should. So it is her fault, not mine? It is absolutely not your fault. You are wonderful and kind and deserving of all the love in the world. If Grandma cannot see that, it is her loss. Ethan nodded slowly, processing this. I still wish my toy was not broken. I know, sweetheart. I wish that too. We arrived at my parents' house that afternoon. My mom and dad welcomed us with open arms, with cookies and hot chocolate and genuine excitement to see their grandson. Ethan perked up immediately. This was a house where he was always the center of attention, where his grandparents doted on him without reservation or favoritism. "Tell us about Christmas," my mom said. "What did Santa bring you?" Ethan's face fell. I shook my head slightly at my mom, signaling that now was not the time. Later, after Ethan was playing in the basement with some of his toys from here, I told my parents what had happened. My mom was furious. She let the other boy open and break his present? On purpose. She claims it was an accident. She claims she was just letting Tyler test it. That is ridiculous. Who lets a child test another child's Christmas present? Someone who does not care if the test destroys it, my dad said quietly. He had always been the more measured of my parents, but I could see the anger in his eyes. That is deliberate, Rachel. She wanted it to happen. I do not know if she wanted it to happen, but she definitely did not care if it did. What are you going to do? I do not know yet, but something has to change. I cannot keep letting Ethan be treated this way. The next few days at my parents' house were healing. Ethan laughed and played and gradually returned to his usual cheerful self. My parents showered him with attention, took him sledding, baked cookies with him, played every board game he wanted. By the time we headed home, he seemed almost like himself again. But I had not forgotten, and I was not going to let this go. When we got home, I did something I had been thinking about for days. I gathered every gift that Denise had given to Ethan for Christmas. The generic board game she had wrapped hastily. The gift card to a store he never shopped at. The sweater that was 2 sizes too big. I put them all in a box and drove to the nearest donation center. Then I went to the toy store. The Titan Force Commander was sold out. Of course it was. It was the day after Christmas and every parent in America had been trying to get their hands on one. But I was determined. I drove to 3 different stores before I found one that had restocked. The third store was 45 minutes away, in a suburb I had never been to. I did not care. I drove there anyway. The store had gotten a small shipment that morning. They had 4 commanders on the shelf. I bought one immediately, not even checking my bank account first. I handed over my credit card and watched the total come up. $64.99 plus tax. The same price I had paid on Black Friday, but this time it felt different. This time it felt like justice. "Christmas present?" the cashier asked, making conversation. "Replacement for one that got broken," I said. "That is too bad. These things are not cheap." "No, they are not. But some things are worth the cost." I drove home with the box beside me in the passenger seat, secured by the seatbelt like a precious cargo. Which it was. It was not just a toy. It was a statement. It was proof that when the world broke something my son loved, I would move heaven and earth to fix it. I paid full price again, another $64.99, but this time it did not matter. This was about more than a toy. This was about showing Ethan that he deserved good things. That when something unfair happened to him, someone would make it right. That his happiness was worth fighting for. I brought it home and wrapped it carefully, using the nicest wrapping paper I had, the kind with holographic snowflakes that caught the light. I put a bow on top and wrote a tag, "For Ethan, because you deserve something wonderful." I set up a little scene in the kitchen. The wrapped box on the table, a glass of milk beside it, some leftover Christmas cookies on a plate. When Ethan came home from playing at a friend's house, he would walk into what looked like a miniature Christmas morning. When Ethan came downstairs that afternoon, the box was waiting for him on the kitchen table. "What is that?" he asked. "Open it and see." He approached cautiously, as if afraid of another disappointment. His steps were slow, his expression guarded. He had learned, in the span of one terrible Christmas morning, that good things could be taken away. That presents could be broken before you even got to enjoy them. He opened the box slowly, carefully, peeling back the wrapping paper instead of tearing it the way he usually did. He lifted the lid of the box and looked inside. And when he saw what was inside, his face transformed. Is this real? It is real. And it is all yours. No one has touched it except me and the people at the store. He pulled the Titan Force Commander out of the box, this one pristine and perfect, every piece in place, every joint smooth, every light working exactly as it should. He pressed the button on the chest and the robot made its signature laser sound. He opened the chest plate and the little pilot was there, exactly where he was supposed to be. The arms moved smoothly, all 12 points of articulation working perfectly. It is perfect, he whispered. It is actually perfect. I know the other one was broken. I know Christmas did not go the way you wanted. But I wanted you to have this. I wanted you to know that what happened was not okay, and that you deserve better. Ethan set the toy down carefully and threw his arms around me. I held him tight, feeling his small body shake with emotions he could not name. Thank you, Mommy. Thank you so much. You are welcome, sweetheart. Always. After that, things changed between us and Denise. I did not cut her off completely, but I set boundaries. Clear, firm boundaries that I would not compromise on. First, we visited less often. Instead of every major holiday, we started alternating. Thanksgiving at Denise's one year, at my parents' the next. Christmas the same way. This cut our exposure in half and gave us more control over when and how Ethan interacted with his grandmother. Second, when we did visit, I supervised every interaction between Ethan and his grandmother. I stayed in the room during gift-giving. I monitored conversations for subtle put-downs or favoritism. I made sure that no presents were left under her tree until Christmas morning, and that nothing was accessible to Tyler before Ethan had a chance to open it. Third, I established a rule about presents. Every gift for Ethan had to remain sealed in my possession until the moment it was time to open it. No exceptions. No testing. No early peeks. If Denise wanted to give Ethan something, she handed it to me first, and I kept it safe until the appropriate time. Denise complained, of course. She said I was being paranoid, overprotective, that I was making a mountain out of a molehill. She said I was turning her into a villain for one small mistake. It was not small, I told her. It was deliberate. And it hurt Ethan in a way that he still remembers. You are never going to let me forget this, are you? I am never going to let it happen again. There is a difference. She tried going around me, appealing to Daniel. Talk to your wife, she would say. She is being unreasonable. She is keeping me from my grandson. But Daniel had seen Ethan's face on Christmas morning. He had watched his mother dismiss our son's devastation as unimportant. He had finally, after years of excuses, seen the truth about how his mother treated our child. Rachel is right, he told her. What happened was wrong, and we need to make sure it never happens again. These rules are reasonable. You are taking her side over your own mother. I am taking our son's side. That is my job as his father. Those conversations were hard for Daniel. He loved his mother, even as he acknowledged her flaws. He wanted to believe she would change, that she would recognize her mistakes and do better. But Denise never really changed. She just learned to hide her favoritism more carefully when we were watching. We caught her a few times over the years. Little things that on their own might seem insignificant but were part of the larger pattern. Tyler getting a slightly bigger portion of cake at a birthday party. Sophie receiving more effusive compliments than Ethan on the same accomplishment. Denise remembering Tyler's sports achievements in detail, while forgetting that Ethan had won an art contest. Each time we caught her, we said something. Each time she denied it, claimed we were being sensitive, accused us of looking for problems. But we kept saying it anyway, kept pushing back against the favoritism, kept making sure Ethan knew that we saw what was happening and that we disagreed with it. "Some people cannot help who they love more," Daniel said to me one night. "I do not think my mom consciously chooses to prefer Tyler. I think it just happens, and she does not even realize she is doing it." Whether she realizes it or not, the impact on Ethan is the same. He feels the difference. He knows he is not her favorite. "I know. And that is why we keep the boundaries. Not to punish her, but to protect him." Daniel supported me mostly. He had seen Ethan's devastation on Christmas morning. He had watched his mother dismiss our son's feelings as unimportant. He understood, even if it was painful for him to admit, that his mother had a problem. There were times when he wavered, times when Denise's complaints wore him down, and he wondered if we were being too harsh. Those were hard conversations. "She is my mother," he would say. "She is not a bad person. She just has blind spots." Those blind spots hurt our son. Repeatedly. Consistently. We cannot ignore that. I am not asking you to ignore it. I wish things were different. So do I. But wishing does not make it so. We have to deal with the mother she actually is, not the one we wish she was. "I know. I just wish it was different." So do I. But we cannot change Denise. We can only change how much access she has to our son. The years passed. Ethan grew up understanding that his grandmother loved Tyler more. It was not something we told him explicitly. It was something he figured out on his own, through accumulated observations and experiences. But because we had always acknowledged it, always validated his feelings, he did not internalize the message that he was less lovable. He understood that the problem was with Denise, not with him. Ethan was polite to her, but never fully relaxed in her presence. He had learned, at 8 years old, that some people could not be trusted with his heart. Tyler grew up to be much like his grandmother. Entitled, careless with other people's feelings, unable to see beyond his own wants. I watched him at family gatherings, watched him grab the best seat, demand the first serving, sulk when he did not get his way. He was a product of his environment, and his environment had taught him that his feelings mattered more than anyone else's. He never apologized to Ethan for breaking the toy. Not that Christmas, not ever. Years later, when they were teenagers, Ethan mentioned the incident in passing, and Tyler did not even remember it. "What toy?" he asked, genuinely confused. "The Titan Force Commander. You opened it on Christmas Eve and broke it before I could even see it." "Oh, that. Yeah, Grandma let me. I did not know it was going to break." "It did, though." Tyler shrugged. "Things break. That is life." That was Tyler's philosophy. Things break, people get hurt, life moves on. No responsibility, no reflection, no apology. He had never been taught that his actions had consequences, so he never learned to consider them. Ethan grew up differently. He grew up knowing that his mother would always fight for him. He grew up understanding that some relationships require boundaries. He grew up with empathy for others because he knew what it felt like to be overlooked and dismissed. When he was 10, he noticed a classmate being left out of games at recess. He made a point of including that kid, remembering how it felt to be excluded. When he was 12, he saved up his allowance to buy a birthday present for a friend whose family could not afford much. When he was 14, he volunteered at a community center, helping younger kids with homework. "Why do you do all this stuff?" I asked him once. The volunteering, the helping, all of it. He thought about it for a moment. "I remember how bad it felt when Tyler broke my toy and Grandma did not care. I remember feeling like I did not matter. I never want anyone else to feel that way if I can help it." That broken toy had taught him something valuable. Something that would shape him into a compassionate, thoughtful adult. Ethan is 11 years old now. He still has the Titan Force Commander, the second one, the perfect one. It sits on a shelf in his room, no longer played with but cherished as a reminder. When I asked him once why he kept it, he said, "It reminds me that you always have my back. No matter what." That broken toy at Grandma's house taught him something important. It taught him that the world is not always fair. It taught him that some people will hurt you without caring. But it also taught him that there are people who will fight to make things right, who will drive to 3 stores to find a replacement, who will never accept "it is just a toy" as an excuse for cruelty. I was one of those people. His mother. His protector. The one who would always make sure he got what he deserved. Looking back, I sometimes wonder if Denise knew what she was doing that Christmas Eve. Did she consciously decide to let Tyler destroy Ethan's present? Or was it truly the thoughtless accident she claimed? I do not think I will ever know for sure. But in a way, it does not matter. The impact was the same whether it was intentional or not. My son was hurt. His Christmas was ruined. His trust in his grandmother was broken. What matters is what came after. The boundaries I set. The protection I provided. The message I sent to Ethan that his feelings mattered, even when other people tried to tell him they did not. That is what motherhood is about. Not preventing every hurt, because that is impossible. But showing up after the hurt happens. Making it right when you can. Standing between your child and the people who would diminish him. The Titan Force Commander on Ethan's shelf is more than a toy. It is a symbol of what a mother's love looks like in action. It is proof that when the world breaks something precious, the right people will move mountains to fix it. And that is a lesson worth more than any toy could ever cost. Thank you for listening to my journey of discovering what motherhood truly means. I have left 2 more stories on your screen, each from mothers who learned that protecting a child can mean standing alone against those once called family. Choose the one that speaks to you. And if you want to join a community of parents who fight for their children, that notification bell is waiting. Until tomorrow, remember, blood connects us, but a mother's love protects us.